you a global stud. Obviously, you have a passion for the world. Where did you first kind of pick up this passion?
You know, I was a worship leader as a junior in college, and I read this book called Let the Nations Be Glad by John Piper. And all of a sudden, I saw this link in the Bible that I never knew was there, that worship and going to the nations and God's heart for the world are totally connected. And every worship leader needs to have a heart for the world, because that's what the heart for the world is bringing worship to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then where did that, after reading that book, was you graduate with a degree in something?
Yeah, education.
That's great, yep.
Yeah.
And then you graduated. And so where did that thinking, where did that heart kind of change take you after college?
Sure, yeah. After I graduated, I got in a van. I bought a van.
All right, that's a good start.
Tied down a dresser.
Okay, very good.
Got some foam to make a bed in the back. And I traveled around the country for a year and just wanted to challenge college students and worship leaders about God's heart for the world and worship. And visited like 40 colleges, and from UCSD to University of Minnesota to Ole Miss. Had a good time.
Well, it's a natural pick to have you up here tonight speaking to us about the world and some opportunities we can have to have an impact there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you my buddy, Ryan Elliott.
I just wanted to start tonight by telling you a story. I was at the University of South Pacific, which is in Fiji, and it's a magnet campus for the entire South Pacific. If you're a bright student on some island in the middle of the South Pacific, your government will send you on a full scholarship ride to the University of South Pacific to get educated, and then you go back and you owe your government some years of work there. And as we were walking on the campus, there's this big open green with a huge tree in the middle that provided a lot of shade, and there were a couple of guys sitting at a picnic bench there, so I went up to them and started a conversation. And I asked them, hey, where are you guys from? They were from the Solomon Islands. And so we got talking about the Solomon Islands and what's that like. And then I said, hey, well, what do you speak? What language do you speak in the Solomon Islands? And they said, oh, we speak English. I said, I know you speak English. We're speaking in English right now, but what's your mother tongue in the Solomon Islands? He said, oh, well, it's kind of like a pidgin English, like a broken up slang kind of English. I said, so I'm sure you speak pidgin English, but what do you really speak in your home? With your mom and your dad, in your house, what do you speak? And this guy got all shy and kind of put his head down and was kind of embarrassed. I said, what's wrong? What are you embarrassed about? He said, why do you want to know about my language? I said, I'm just really curious about your life. And he put his head down again and said, well, I mean, what do you care? There's only 1,000 people in the world that speak my language. What big deal is it to you? I said, 1,000 people? There's only 1,000 people in the whole world that speak your specific language. I said, yeah. I said, that's amazing. I've never met anybody like you. I asked him, could you tell me some things in your language? So he said a few phrases, and I said them back to him. And he started laughing so hard that he literally almost fell off the picnic bench onto the ground. And as he pulled himself back together, I said, what's so funny? He said, I've never heard a white person say anything in my language before. It's hilarious. Well, I began to transition from there to sharing about Jesus' love for him, and Jesus' love for the world, how Jesus died on the cross to save him from his sins. And that young man and his friends from this small tribal island in the middle of the South Pacific, he gave his life to Jesus that day. And as I was thinking about it, I thought, I'm not sure if he's the first person in his language to trust Christ. But I imagine God looking down on the globe, on the earth, and he sees worship coming up over here in his name, and worship over here coming up. But he looks over and he sees no worship from this language over here. No one worshiping his name. But that night, a voice came up from that language. Maybe a language the Lord had never heard his name praised in before. And he looked and he saw praise from that language coming up to him. John Piper has a quote in the book that changed my life a little bit, and it's this: missions exist because worship doesn't. Missions exists because worship doesn't. What that means is the reason we go out to the world, the reason we do missions, is because there are places in the world where God is simply not worshipped. There are whole countries, whole cities, there are whole languages where God has yet to be worshipped in that place. And so, yes, we are missionaries, but what we really are people going out to raise up worshipers around the world. And if there's anything I know about college students, it's that you love to worship God. You love to come before his throne and before his glory and sing his praises. And so take that passion and bring that passion for worship to all languages, to all nations, and raise up other worshipers. That's what we're going to talk about tonight during our global missions time. It's just talking about raising up worshipers around the world. I thought there was no better way to do it than just to ask the band to come up and to lead us in worship. And as we sing his praises, we'll have some testimonies come up and some people come up and share about what God has done in their life and how they're going to the world or how they are from the world and how we went to them. And then we'll continue on some other stories and to see what God is doing around the world. So if you would just, let's stand up and worship that God that longs to hear his praises sung from every tribe, tongue, and nation.